Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Zoom and Connect. I am very happy today to introduce to you Jane Pritchard, who has been a Jin Jitsu practitioner since 1988. She has studied with Mary Burmeister. She has a practice in Santa Rosa, as well as she's been teaching self-help workshops on TV, radio, and in California. She'll tell you more about it. Jane was one of Pamela Markarian Smith very foremost students, and I'm really glad to invite her here today because a lot of people don't know the full story, and Jane was there all the way from beginning to end. And so, welcome, Jane.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, Alexis. And hello, everybody.
Jane, how did you get started in Jin Jitsu?
Oh my goodness. You know, my daughter was about 4. I was having serious back issues and I was trying everything, you know, the conventional medical route, chiropractic, alternative therapies. Nothing was working until I discovered Jin Jitsu. And my back issues cleared up. My practitioner gave me things to do on myself. My daughter was dealing with some issues. They cleared up with me treating her. And I was like, why don't people know about this? This is amazing. Mm-hmm. So I was at a crossroads in my life and looking for the next, direction. And Jin Jitsu was that.
And you studied, at that time, did you study with, you took classes with Mary?
I took my first class with Mary. And then she had her accident and wasn't teaching anymore. And so Pamela was teaching here in Santa Rosa. Pamela lived in Santa Rosa. I was so fortunate to live here in the same town. And so we're getting a little feedback here. Are you hearing that? Sorry. So I was fortunate to get to take classes from her here in Santa Rosa. And then go ahead.
Was Pamela your main teacher then, like over the years?
Over the years, yes. I've taken classes through the other organization from many different teachers. But Pamela was my mentor because she lived here in Santa Rosa. We did weekly tutorials for years. 14 years I did tutorials with her. So
Pamela at that time, she was teaching then? Was she teaching for JSA Inc. at the time, or what was the situation?
Yes. She was one of the first group of teachers who Mary had trained to teach. And so she was teaching the full practitioner class, and then she was also teaching some special classes too. So
did they at that time
took every class from her that I could.
They had like a 5-day class. This was, I guess, right before I came in '91.
Yeah. My first class with Mary was a 5-day class, and then Pamela was teaching the 5-day class, and then she taught various other class, the Circle of the Stars class, and other classes. So it was at one of those classes that I was taking from her, and we had a break, and she called me up to her desk, and she said, I see something in you, and I would really like to work with you privately, if you'd like to do that. And I was so honored. I was like, I was amazed that she wanted to work with me, and I was so excited. And so then I began working with her privately.
What really struck you about her?
She knew her understanding and awareness of this art was so full. I mean, she was kind of legendary here in this area for her treatments, that people would come to her with seemingly incurable situations, and they would go away feeling great, and things would clear up. And so she was sort of legendary that way. And then when I started studying with her, she had such a depth of understanding of this art, and she was so focused on it. And she had studied with Mary for so many years privately.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I started in Jin Shin Jitsu in '91, and for the first 25 years, I never heard of her materials. Somebody told me, you must buy it, you must buy her materials. So finally, I bought her DVD sets and her textbooks, and I watched all 15 DVDs, like from beginning to end at once. I was
Wow.
absolutely blown away by her understanding, and I learned so much in a very different way. So I want to talk about that a little bit later, about what she presented, because so you and I have a little bit of different training, I would say. Right?
Well, Pamela taught the same way that Mary taught for many years. It wasn't until later on that she really started teaching the advanced level. So
did she teach, what was the advanced level, and where did she teach it?
Well, that was the Trinity level. That was what she, what she presented in her textbooks. That was the...
Was she still teaching then for JSJ Inc., or when she started to teach the Trinity level?
She had the understanding and awareness of that level for a long time. I mean, she and Mary, from what she told me, she and Mary talked about this a lot. And she wanted to share that advanced level with the world. She felt like it was important. And this was after she came to that decision after Mary was no longer in the no longer had the ability to run the organization. It was being run by her son.
Okay, well, let's back up a little bit before we go chronologically. So you were with Pamela, very much from the early days. But although Pamela met Mary, I think in 1965 already. What was and she was sick, so Mary helped her with her body. But what was can you talk a little bit about their relationship?
What Pamela told me so many stories of she and Mary, and Mary was more than just a mentor to her. She was like a mother to her. They had a teacher student relationship, but they also had a very familial relationship. And Pamela would bounce into their house, and they would go out and do things together as well as study together. And Pamela would tell me about how when they would be working together, they were treating it. They lived in Los Angeles at that time. There would be in Mary's living room 5 or 6 of those old low Jinshin tables across the living room floor, and there would be people laying on all of the tables, and there would be lots of movie stars and models from LA, because they would come and get treatments before their auditions, because they would look so much better and they would feel so much better and they'd be so much more relaxed for their auditions. And so Pamela would go and she would check their pulses, she would start getting their energy moving, and then she'd move on to the next one, and Mary would come along and would then do the in-depth treatment. And so they would talk together about what they discovered in these clients and how to work with them. And so Pamela learned from Mary in the beginning that way.
Mm-hmm. And so she they worked very closely together, and she got firsthand how to treat people, as well as I guess they discussed case studies, and so she got an enormous amount of personalized training, like private mentorship almost.
Oh, and they studied together all the time too. I mean, they would study embryology together and see how that fit into Jinshin Jitsu, and they would study spirituality together and see how that fit into Jin Shin Jitsu. I mean, everything was in the context of Jin Shin, and they studied a lot together that way.
Did Pamela teach also astrology and numerology and things like that? Did she and Mary study that? She was not.
Well, there was some incorporated into it. I don't remember specifically Pamela studying astrology or numerology. They may have touched on it and seen the correlation with Jin Shin Jitsu, but it wasn't like a study for her. At least I don't. If it was, about that.
Do you have any particular story that comes to mind that Pamela told you about Mary, and anything special? I mean, I love the story about the cots, how they were working, but another story about her teaching, Pamela, or
boy, let me think. I mean, she was constantly telling me about what Mary had taught her and what Mary would tell her about Jiro Murai. And
can you tell a little bit about that, about Jiro Murai, if you can bring him in a little bit, just a little bit of history?
You know, every now and then she would pull out with me a drawing that Mary had passed on to her that was a drawing of Jiro Murai's, and it was all in just it was like a street to all those
wait, I think we missed
a drawing
wait,
of Jiro Murai's, and they would study that together. Okay.
Oh, so they would study. Yeah, sometimes you fall away a little bit, so I just want to make sure that we don't miss anything of your value.
Apologize.
So they would study.
Okay.
They would study some of Jiro's drawings together.
Right. When Mary would have when Jiro was alive, Mary would have a question about a particular client, and she would write to Jiro, and he would send her these drawings and information. And so Pamela would share those that she had with me, and it was like holding a piece of history, a drawing of Jiro Murai's.
Yeah, and that's very much how they worked, right? A lot of these flows that we have are actual case studies, and there were specific flows that Jiro created for specific conditions. So Pamela, I guess, witnessed that communication between Jiro and Mary.
Yeah. I don't know how long they worked together, before Jiro. Don't know about that, but she had this information from Jiro that she would share. Are we there? I think we froze again.
I don't know.
Can you hear me?
Are we frozen all the time, or what's happening?
No, it's off and on.
It's okay. I just keep repeating because I want people to hear this. Even if you're frozen, we'll just wait till it unfreezes. So, basically,
Okay.
So Pamela taught at that time for JSJ Inc. with the other instructors, and at that time there were 4 of them. And then Pamela left, and that's about when I came to Jin Shin Jitsu myself. So I had heard vaguely that there was another teacher, but then I never heard about it again, or I'd never heard of Jin Shin Institute. And so this was in the early 90s. And I was wondering if you know why Pamela left and, why she formed Jin Shin Institute.
Yes. Well, Pamela was
no.
A more. Can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So Pamela wanted to teach the advanced level of Jin Shin Jitsu. And that was not available for her to do that through Jinshin Inc. So it was a very difficult decision for Pamela to make, to break away from Jinshin Jitsu Incorporated, because she loved Mary with all her heart. And she also knew that this was something that needed to be passed on to future generations. And so the only way that she was allowed to teach the advanced level, the Trinity level of Jinshin Jitsu, was to form her own organization. And so, you know, it was not an easy decision for her. And Jinshin Jitsu Incorporated had been her life, and, you know, the Jinshin through the organization had been her life for, you know, decades. And as soon as she decided to go ahead and share this advanced level, she was pretty much erased from the other organization, and that's unfortunate, but that's what happened. And so she was dedicated, though, and she spent the rest of her life getting this down on paper and getting this down on video and teaching who she could about the Trinity level of looking at Jinshin Jitsu. And it's all the same as, I mean, it's nothing different than the original presentation. It's just a more advanced level, a different perspective of looking at this art. And she really wanted to present that. So
did Mary support her to continue and move out on her own? And was she still in touch and teaching her, or how did that work?
You know, by this time, Mary, and please understand, everything I'm telling you is from what Pamela told me. Okay, and I'm sure there are other people that have other perspectives, but this is what Pamela told me. And I know that she met with Mary, and she told Mary that she wanted to do this and that she was going to do this. And Mary, at that point, it was long after her accident. She wasn't fully cognizant all the time, is my understanding. And she, you know, they parted as loving each other very much, and Mary understood that this is what she needed to do. And so that was my understanding of how it passed.
And so what was Pamela's mission for Jinshin Institute?
Her whole life, for 50 years, was dedicated to studying and sharing the art of Jinshin Jitsu. Mm-hmm. And this Trinity level was a way of looking at Jinshin Jitsu that seemed to be more cohesive, more understandable, more a way of being with this art that would have people get the most out of it.
So can you...
She was always a student.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I met her myself, and you know, and she wanted to give me still as much as possible. We really got along immediately as well, and it was apparent to me how devoted she was to the truth and the really integrity of the work, as well as how close and how much she loved Mary Burmeister. That was apparent immediately. So that was really beautiful to see. So yeah, I was surprised that I didn't hear about it for so long. But you've mentioned now the Trinity. Can you, for the students that are listening, can you explain a little bit what her, the way she was teaching? Can you share a little bit with us and how that would be different? Or
yeah, and I just want to say for students of the other method, Jinshin Jitsu Incorporated teaching. When she was first teaching me the Trinity level, I was so frustrated. So I just want to share this because it was a different way of looking at Jinshin, and I was so used to looking at it that this other way, it was very hard for me to make the transition. But when I finally started seeing things from the Trinity level, it made so much sense. It was like such a great way of working with it. So I want to share that first of all. And the Trinity, basically, Pamela saw everything from the three. Of course, there was the 3-in-1, the main central, the majors, and the diagonal. But there were threes in everything. There was surface, middle, deep. There was listening to the pulses, the 3 levels of the pulses. There was the 13, 14, 15. There was the 9, 10, 2. There was the 4, 11, 3. There was, that there were 3 organ flows in each of the, face, chest, finger, toe flows. I mean, there was 3s everywhere. So
did she get all this from Mary? I mean, she didn't make up her own thing. It was still from her teachings from Mary.
She told me that she got this from Mary. And there was some I'm going to see how to word this. There was a bone of contention because not all the other teachers were trained in the same way by Mary.
Because she worked very closely one-on-one.
Because she worked very closely.
She didn't just go to classes, which was more.
And she studied all the time.
They studied together all the time.
It was from an old school. See, Mary was from an old. Jiro Murai trained Mary, and Jiro Murai was an old school. When you study, he would teach things. He would say things one time, and if you didn't get it, too bad. And that was like a very rigorous way of being trained, and that's how Mary was trained. And so Pamela told me that Mary would get very frustrated with people not really studying and really dedicating their life in that way and studying in depth. And Pamela and Mary studied that way together. They were very like-minded that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so she honored Pamela and for the in-depth study that she would do, and she would share things with her that I think she didn't always share with other people, other teachers.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, it's interesting because when I finally got to Pamela's materials, I understood everything that she was saying because I had heard all of it, but the way she put it together was so brilliant that was the first time I had heard it like that, and it was very inspiring. It's so large and it's so big that that's why I was so excited, and I said I want to meet her, and that's when I came out to Santa Rosa and I met you too. She understood the material.
And I just want to say,
can you?
Yeah, go ahead.
One second. Is it working or?
It's.
Can people hear it?
I can hear. There's some lag and some. I don't know. Either we keep going or we can stop and just start it.
No, I think we'll just keep going unless people are really saying that they cannot hear. Okay, good. All right, so we'll just continue. Sometimes you go in and out, so I just want to make sure that that we get it. And I can hear what you're saying, but sometimes you go in and out. So But in any case, yes. So when I first met her, that's what I perceived from her, is her devotion, that she was this oneness with Jinshin Jitsu, the way she embodied it. And when she placed her hands on me, she embodied it. It was incredible.
Yeah, I've never known anybody who was entirely dedicated to one thing like she was to Jin Shin Jitsu. It was her whole life. I mean, everywhere she would be eating dinner and she would see Jin Shin Jitsu in it. And when she, I just want to say, she was so excited about passing this organization on to you. You know, she had teaching is to the whole practitioner training wasn't my path. She would have liked it to be, it wasn't my path. And she was so excited to have you have this organization. I remember when she called me and said, come over, I want you to meet Alexis. And she loved you. She was clear that you had the pure heart of Jinshin like she did. So I just want to say,
well, it's a real honor, and
very
it's a
happy.
it's a big responsibility for me to spread this into the world, which is very much still our mission today, is to open up this art into the world. And I think also
Absolutely.
That's why it's really important that we're having this conversation today, because I'm doing a lot in reaching out, and I love the support of the community and for people to start teaching self-help and spreading it so that more people will know about it, and also different generations. And as you said yesterday, this is really an art that needs to be spread and needs to be known. And Jeremiah wouldn't have given it to Mary to take it to the United States if he didn't want it, give it to the world.
Exactly. And he didn't put a lot of strangleholds on her and how to share this or who to share it with. He wanted it out there in the world. I think he must have. And she was very dedicated to sharing it in its pure form, and Pamela was too. When I worked with her in the beginning of her writing her textbooks, and I helped her with a lot of.
Wait 1 second. Can you repeat?
Very.
Just repeat whenever.
Yeah, 1 second.
Yes.
1 second. So you said that you were there when she started writing of her textbooks?
I was helping her write one of the textbooks. And she had some vision issues. And so I was helping her with the drawings, and we would go through meticulously through all of Mary's material, and we would pull out the old drawings from Mary and the drawings from Jiro, and she was very committed to it being the pure art without change that was passed on from Jiro Murai. Mm-hmm. She was always very adamant about it not being her gig, but that this is the true form of Jinshin Jitsu. Yes.
Honestly, I do feel very much the same way, because I'm also creating new textbooks, and to stay very true to what Jiro brought, what Mary brought to the United States. And at the same time, also, of course, we are evolving. And so there are parts that we're presenting maybe in a slightly different way to a younger generation. The same way that when Mary went to the United States and she would see people with specific projects, that she would ask Jiro, and he created a flow for that specific situation, because there are different projects today that there were those years ago in Japan. So we are evolving, and life is changing, and
and Mary's teaching style was very different than Jiro Murai's style. You know, she would repeat things more than once, unlike Jiro Murai, and so she adapted her teaching methods to be appropriate for the student body that she was teaching. So, yes. And so there is that constant evolution that way.
Well, we do have a beautiful community of people who just love Jinshin Jitsu, and I hope that this interview is very much a tribute to Pamela and remembering her, and for people to know who she was. And you're an embodiment of it. And you're practicing today, right? You are a practitioner.
I'm still here around, but hopefully we'll be able to practice again soon. But yes, I still have a full-time practice. Yes.
Good. Lola, are there any?
And of course, I treat myself.
Yes, can you talk a little bit about that? Because we had a conversation yesterday, and I loved how you said to bring everything back to the Jinshin Jitsu, and that's very much what Pamela represented. Her whole, like you're saying, her whole life was living with that philosophy. And so for the people who are listening today, if they have fear coming up or if they have anger coming up, how they can bring it back within their own practice.
Yes, you know, but Pamela and I would be working together, and I might be sharing something about her in my life that I would be dealing with. Like I would be upset about something, and she'd say, well, I think you just need to do your gallbladder flow. So I want you to do your gallbladder flow every morning for the next week, you know, and she would constantly bring it back to how we can utilize this art and this quarantine period. You know, a lot of people have been dealing with fear, people have been dealing with depression, people have been dealing with anger. And so I invite people to use the Jinshin Jitsu to support you in moving those things through. You know, if you're angry, hold that middle finger. Do your liver flow, do your gallbladder flow. If you're in fear about what's going on in your life, hold your index finger, do your 23s, do your kidney and bladder flows. This for the it's for living. It's for having your life be full. So
it's for all of us to use, and it's a great gift and important that it's being continued in an open and way where we can spread the art as a community. And I think that's what Durham wanted, and what Mary, why she brought it to the United States, is to spread it, and why we're all practicing. And so I'm in honor to continue Jinshin Institute as I have more opportunity to present and teach what I want to bring forth to people, and that's very much a younger generation, and opening up the art to the world. So I'm very grateful, and I'm very grateful for your support as well. In Pamela's materials, there are, of course, some questions that we have, and you've been a way more long-time student of hers. So sometimes I will come back to you and we discuss.
Absolutely, I am yours. I am yours.
So.
Absolutely, I am absolutely. And for the practitioners out there, I just want to say that one of the things that Pamela was really adamant about was knowing exactly where the points were, knowing where the true points were. And I'm kind of surprised by how many practitioners I've had treatments from who don't really know exactly where the points are. So you want to get real certain about those, and that's one of the things that I'm really happy to see that you are focusing on in your teaching. And the thing for both practitioners and students and self-help students is to is to practice on yourself. Practice. Do your self-help.
That is
do your self-help.
Yeah, the self-help and be your own testimony. And to that point, I very much do teach the specific point and the bullseye, because personally in my own practice, I also find that it's very effective once you go to the bullseye. And from anybody from people that have had a lot of experience, and they do go. I've been treated by Mary myself, Mary Burmeister, and she certainly was right on the bullseye.
Oh, she was. Oh, man.
Right. So was Pamela and Philomena, my teacher, and so am I. So yes, it is very important, and to continue studying. And this is very much what I do teach, is to become as good a practitioner as you are, and to really use the techniques that Jeremiah gave us, even though it's an art and it's a creative process, and we can use our creativity to see how we are going about a project. But there is also a vast technique to it. And so for people like you and me, we've been studying for such a long time and still learning, right?
Oh, always a student, always learning.
Always a student. So, okay. So Lola, are there any questions for Jane?
Can you
Come. I'm going to call off some questions here.
Can you expand on the 3 relationships?
Can you expand on the 3 relationships? The Trinity.
I can't.
Wait 1 second.
Trinity? You're cutting out on me.
Okay.
Say that again.
Can you expand on the threes, the relationships, because that is a beautiful concept, and Pamela calls her material the Trinity. The Trinity.
When you start looking at this art from 3s, you know, the 3, the number 3, is the breath. It's the inhalation, it's the exhalation, it's the spark. So the 3 is we don't live without the breath. And so when you start looking at the art of Jinshin Jitsu from 3, you start seeing 3s in everything. And that's how she taught. I mean, certainly the main central, the majors, and the diagonals, those 3 make up this physical form. But then you start looking at the 3s and everything. The 9 is a triple 3, and the 9 is it is the transitions. And so everything that has a transition in Jinshin Jitsu, when we transition from one point to another, from the 1 to the 2, when we transition from one organ flow to another, when we transition from the seasons, that there's always that awareness of the 9, which is a triple 3. This is getting, this is probably TMI for a lot of people on this conversation, but just start watching. If you're a practitioner, start watching for the 3s in everything, and it will give you a level of awareness and understanding that I haven't seen in any other way. Does that make sense?
Pamela's, when you watch her DVDs, the whole class is based on the 3 of the, when it's in harmony, it comes together at the 13, 14, and 15. And she keeps going back to that, which was really, the way she presents it was really mind-blowing for me. It was so, to see it from such a different level and from so many different levels, it was absolutely insightful. I learned a lot from her, yes. So the 3s, 3 right here, the breath, where the inhale and the exhale come together. The 3s, Jeremiah called them the first 3, the main center, source, the supervisor, and the mediator, or the main center and the left supervisor and the right supervisor. So depending how you want to look at it. 13, 14, 15, chest line, waistline, hip line, chest line, waistline, hip line.
There's the 4s, 11s, the 3s.
The master key.
There's the 10s, the 9s, and the 2s. There's surface, middle, deep for those practitioners that are listening. There's the listening to the pulses from the surface deep inside. There's what?
Yeah.
There's oh golly, I'm trying to think of some of the other ways. The toe flows, which are all, you know, critical needs are the toe flows, the kidney, liver, spleen. There's just threes everywhere. And it's when you start looking at it from that perspective, it's just astonishing what you can see.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And she really teaches her class that way. So I do hope that people who have not been exposed to her materials, it will open up a world for you, as it did
Absolutely.
for so many years of practice already. So we have digitalized the DVD, so if people prefer, they can
Yes.
computer.
So now they can download it. That's so great. That's just fabulous.
So some people, they say it's a lot and she was a little disorganized, but how was that for you when you studied with her?
Yeah, so Pamela had a very Asian way of teaching. It's not linear. I was very fortunate, and I learned early on how to work with Pamela, and I was able to ask her questions in such a way that she was able to bring her level of awareness, which was way up here, and mine was way here. And it was, I think it was difficult for her to come down to our level of understanding in her teaching. And I was able to ask her questions in such a way that gave her a pathway to come to my level of understanding and teach me. And so we worked very well together. And it was, and I know that it can be frustrating for some people to watch a non-linear way of teaching, because in this culture, we're very linear.
You know, I mean, I think a non-linear, for me, it's very beautiful to have a non-linear way of teaching because it's endless and it's expansive. And that's what I got when I saw her materials. And when I took my first class from Philomena, I had no clue what she was talking about. It was so large. And that Mary taught like that.
Mary taught in a linear way too. Yeah. So
wait, Mary taught in a what way? You fell away.
She taught in a non-linear way as well.
In a non-linear.
She taught in a very Asian way. Yeah. Because that's the way of this art is. It's non-linear.
It's like outside of the comfort zone because it's so large, and then you do see that a little bit in Pamela's. It's like so big when she's teaching this class.
I know.
Here and there, and you know, it's everywhere. But then it's to also to pick up what you're ready for. You pick up what you're ready for, and you know, when you hear when you're ready for it, and the rest you let go.
Yeah.
And I'm presenting it in a very simple way. Also, a lot of self-help and building upon that, because I do people. I want people to feel comfortable being really beginners and applying it to themselves, because that's really in the end what it's about, is to apply Jinshinjutsu into your life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that's a really useful way of teaching it. And I really honor you for how you have taken this on. It's just, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Oh,
and I know, like with Pamela, I know that there is some pushback. And I just want to say, you know, there's no competition in Jinshinjutsu. Jinshinjutsu is the creator's art through compassionate man, which is the actual translation of Jinshinjutsu, creative art through compassionate man, woman. And compassion is a key word there. And so one of the things I love about you is your compassion and how you bring that compassion and that heart of Jinshinjutsu to the party. And Pamela very much did that. And Mary did too. And it grieves me when I see, when I don't always see that level of cooperation and compassion in the world of Jinshin Jitsu. It's not the heart of Jinshin Jitsu. Jinshin Jitsu is about working co-creatively, working compassionately. And I honor you for what you bring to the art that way, Alexis.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And it's very important for me to have your support, and also to have the community's support, because we are moving this forward as you know, as a group, as a community, because I can't do this all on my own, and I'm reaching out to a lot of young people and the next generation. So I really do invite everybody to join me in this mission to really open it up to the world, so that people know about it, like Reiki and other wonderful modalities and ways, and, you know, art forms. And I really appreciate support.
And anybody who's listening to this who hasn't seen Alexis's book yet, you want to get this book. You want to get this book, because this is a really great book. And thank you for all that you put in. That's beautifully done. I just love it.
Yeah, and well, thank you. That's very sweet. I think a lot of the people have gotten the book, and I really like that you spoke to shine some light on Pamela's work and her materials, because, you know, they're here, and I would love to share those also.
Absolutely. I mean, get them while they're still available, because you can watch these for years and years and continue. Every time I watch them. I mean, I was in that class, you know, I was in that class.
Oh, you were?
But every time I watch, oh yeah, I was in that class. You'll see me in some of the shots, and I was a lot younger then. But every time I watch them or listen, you know, I learned something new. There is so much gold in those videos. So,
yeah, it's a lifetime. In that way, it's a lifetime study. When you look at my book, The Art of Jinshin, it's really simple. But when you look at Pamela's videos, these are a lifetime study. And that's part of the beauty also. And that's what makes it an art. You can be very creative with it. And you see her, you're practicing like that. So.
Yes. It's so great. It's so great.
Can you also like move this a little bit?
Yeah. Is Jane also teaching?
Are you teaching, Jane?
You know, I teach self-help classes from time to time, and you can go to my website is jinshinjane.com, and I don't have a class scheduled right at the moment because we're still in quarantine here, but I will be scheduling classes, and you can get on my mailing list and find out when those classes, when I schedule those, I'll send.
We will post your website in the comments. And also a question to you is, do you think we could do something together? And
oh, I'd love that.
Yes,
sure. I'd love that.
We'll present a workshop or a class together, and we'll
that'd be really fun.
Sphere of Pamela's work.
That'd be fun. That'd be great fun. I'd love it.
Okay.
And last question, can pregnant women practice Jinshin?
Can pregnant women practice Jinshin?
I don't know whether they mean as practitioners or as self-help, but the answer is yes to both.
To both, the answer is yes, because it's a harmonizer.
In fact, in fact, you probably had the same experience I've had. I've treated a lot of women who had difficulty in maintaining their pregnancies, and Jinshin Jitsu has gotten them through all the way to birth. So absolutely, it's a great art to be doing when you're pregnant.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Well, Jane, so thank you so much for today. And I'm so glad that you're here to support us at Jinshin Institute. And yes, let's plan something together. And maybe we can go over some of the material that is in Pamela's textbooks.
That'd be great. I'd be happy to.
And uncover those and explore them.
That'd be fun. That'd be great fun. And thank you. Thank you for taking Pamela's work, which was an extension of Mary's work, which is an extension of Jeremiah's work. Thank you for taking it and doing. I know that there's a lot of sacrifice involved. I know that there's a lot of passion and heart involved. I know that it's not always an easy path to be the leader of something like this. And I honor you and I appreciate you for your dedication and your courage and your heart. You have the heart of Jinshin. Thank you for that.
Thank
I
you so
love sharing with you. I love hanging out with you.
Thank you. Same here. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us
All right.
today. And we'll see you all really soon. And thank you, Jane.
All right. Keep Jinshinning.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.